welcome back once again to Peli FM. Jomo, I have to get used to. By the way, I do a presentation on Radio 1584 in Lodiam. I hope I'm not going to make a mistake. So welcome to Radio 1584. But anyway, my name is Yusuf Mustafa, and in the studio with me is Sheikh Imran Kubi. And by the way, we are running Institute for Islamic Services as well, an organization that has been in existence for the past 40 years in Lodiam, running various projects such as skills development, daycare centers, free daycare centers for the little ones, daily feeding schemes in different places. Now, all these welfare activities that the Institute for Islamic Services is doing are part and parcel of what we have said, that in the month of Ramadan, you have to increase your help or your good acts to those who are well deserving or those who are less fortunate. Now, let's go into detail now in the do's and don'ts in the month of Ramadan.
Yes, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So yes, definitely in the month of Ramadan, like you mentioned, Brother Yusuf, that essentially we are trying to present ourselves in a way that is much more pleasing to Allah. We want to do acts that allows us to gain that proximity and closeness towards Allah. And so obviously that comes with certain things that we need to obviously engage in. And then there's obviously the aspect of actions that we need to abstain from. So just in terms of things that we should strive to abstain from, okay, so there are few things that's very clear. Obviously, while we are fasting, we can't obviously partake in food or drink, so that's like obvious. So we fasting and we abstaining from food and drink, and then also we are abstaining from having relations with our partners as well. So romantic relations with our partners, because we are trying to abstain from that. We want to basically be in a pure form as much as possible, essentially. Then we want to stay away from things that is displeasing towards Allah, such as perhaps like backbiting, right? Speaking ill of someone else, right? Because what would be the purpose of you fasting and trying to present yourself in a pure form towards Allah, but you are speaking ill of other people? Then obviously things such as stealing, usurping the rights of others, right? These are all things that is prohibited, not just in the month of Ramadan, but throughout the life of a Muslim, throughout the life of a believer. We don't usurp the rights of others. Things that also we strive we essentially strive to engage in as less sin as possible during the month of Ramadan. So we want to abstain from things, but we also want to do a few things as well. What are the things that we need to strive for? So like I said, during the month of Ramadan, we are essentially striving to present ourselves towards Allah in a way that is pleasing towards Him, right? So we can do that through doing charitable acts. You mentioned that your organization takes care of or does so many charitable acts in the Lodium area, taking care of people. These are things that we strive for, especially in the month of Ramadan, because as Muslims we believe that when you do something good, especially in the month of Ramadan, you get more reward, and it is seen as more favorable in the eyesight of God in the month of Ramadan. So it's a special month, and therefore we strive to do special acts and we exert ourselves in doing good.
So in other words, it should for a Muslim, what I pick up from what you have said, it's supposed to be a two-way traffic, whereby when you do these good acts, you are softening the hearts of the people, and at the same time also you are earning rewards from your Lord.
Yes, exactly. You are softening the hearts of people, but not just only softening the hearts of people, you're also softening your own heart. Because when we are serving others, we are doing it for the pleasure of Allah, right? We're not doing it for name, fame, and monetary gain. We're not doing it so that we can post it online. We are doing these things for the pleasure of Allah. And when you are doing things for the pleasure of Allah, automatically it has an effect on your own heart as well. So when you are serving others, essentially you are serving yourself because it's a benefit for you as well. So it's not just I'm going to help others and everyone else is in need, but you must also look at it from a sense that it's going to be a benefit for myself as well.
When we talk of softening the hearts of the people, when we were coming discussing the show, you've mentioned something very, very that made me think that today in South Africa we've got a very big problem, huge problem, when it comes to our behavior, our morality, our corruption, and it's so rife. It's so. Do you see Ramadan or fasting rather as a way of reducing? I know it's a bit of a complex question and complex answer, obviously. But do you see Ramadan as a solution, or fasting as a solution of the chaos and fiasco that we see not only in South Africa, I would say, but around the world?
Yeah, no, definitely. The month of Ramadan is a training program.
Right.
Where you, as a believer, you are limiting yourself in doing certain things. And sometimes these things are, for example, sins or perhaps harmful acts, right, towards yourself or towards the community. So in this month, especially, it's like a training program that you are trying to correct yourself. You are trying to rehabilitate yourself, right? So we are fasting, we're abstaining from food and water, but we are also abstaining from acts that are sinful as well. So in a sense, it's like a training program for us. And then through this training program, we can correct ourselves. And it all starts with the individual. If we want to see change in a society, we need to start with ourselves. We need to correct ourselves. And then it will start to have the ripple effect. Like when you throw a stone in the pond, you see that ripple effect. Just one stone, right? But it starts with the individual. So think about the month of Ramadan as a training program. That I'm going to limit myself. I'm going to limit myself in food and drink, but not just that. I'm going to limit myself from immoral acts as well. And so it can be an amazing program for the individual to strive towards rejuvenating and rehabilitating the self. So I think it can serve as almost like a springboard toward change in society at large if we really strive in this month.
One question that I think I should have asked at the beginning of the show: is it a forced matter? Are you forced to fast as a Muslim? Is it an obligation? Is it an optional act? As a Muslim, how would you describe Ramadan? Fasting. That is it a must? Is it optional? Is it compulsory?
Yeah. So as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. That the month of Ramadan has been prescribed upon us, but in a sense that it is compulsory for us as Muslims to fast, right? So the short answer to that question is, if you are an able person, if you are able body to fast, then it is compulsory upon you. Now when we refer to an able body, we are saying that individual that is not unhealthy, that individual that doesn't have a chronic sickness. So there is certain exceptions. So if a person doesn't have any chronic illnesses, then it is compulsory for that individual to fast. However, children, we have a saying that only when the child becomes mukallaf or baligh, right, when he reaches a age of maturity, then it becomes compulsory upon him, and that is normally around the age of like 14 to 15 with boys, and for girls when they obviously get their first menstrual cycle, then afterwards it will become compulsory for them to fast up until you are able to. So that's up in old age. So you have people that is 90 years old, old age people that are still striving to fast. However, there is exceptions to the rule where people that has chronic illnesses, they are allowed not to not partake in the fast, but then they have to pay what is called a fidya. And a fidya is an amount of money or goods that you give into kind of to make up for the fact that you're not fasting, and that you pay in order to cover that basically.
Oh, okay. So in other words, if you are not able to fast for valid reasons, like as we have said, chronic illnesses or old age, extreme old age, etc., you are supposed to pay for that in monetary terms, in goods or whatever, and then you give this money or goods to who?
Normally you would give it to the people that are in need of it, right?
Okay.
Those that are in need of it in society, these monies and these goods will be given over to them, so that we can look after our Muslim brothers at large.
Now we have realized that there is an act that normally Muslims out there, I know maybe it might not sound easy to understand for non-Muslim listeners out there, but for our Muslims, there is this notion of saying in the month of Ramadan, this is where I pay my zakat.
Yes.
This is the opportune time for me to pay my zakat. Before we go into that, I think let's basically, for the benefit of our non-Muslims, go quickly into the 5 pillars of Islam, whereby zakat or fasting, pilgrimage and all that is part of it. Then they can easily understand when you describe now the payment of zakat only in the month of Ramadan.
Yes, this is actually a very
tricky
and complicated, and I'm probably going to need like 2 hours to explain this, this question and the answer to it. But essentially in Islam there is 5 pillars, right? The 5 pillars of Islam, it is to believe in the oneness of God, and to believe in the message of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It is also to perform your 5 dailies prayers, your 5 daily salah. It is also to fast the month of Ramadan. So one of the pillars of Islam is actually the month of Ramadan that we are currently doing now. It's like very important. Like you can say, like you understand a pillar is the thing that is upholding a house, right? And so these pillars are basically upholding the house of Islam essentially, right? So it must be there. And then you have the 4th thing, which is zakah. And then the final thing is Hajj, right? And Hajj is to go to perform pilgrimage in the city of Mecca, right? But coming to the 4th pillar of Islam, zakah, right? So many people, so zakah is basically an annual tax, right? In today's terms, right? So we know we have like the normal tax that we have in South Africa.
Your SARS.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So in Islam, people that earn over a certain amount over a yearly period, and they generate a certain amount of money, they get taxed upon that money, right? And that money then goes to those that are most in need of that money, right? So it can go to servicing the poor, it can go to building schools, and I think it's great that we have a lot of Muslims that are wealthy. And Islam has a built-in system that the wealthy don't just stay wealthy without considering the poor. We have a built-in system to ensure that we can uplift the poor as well. And so we tax those that are taxable, but it's on a yearly period. So we wait for an entire year, and then at that time, then the individual will pay the tax. And many people pay their zakah in the month of Ramadan. You see, and so they use it as an opportune moment, because they know their rewards is going to be more. So they use the month of Ramadan especially to pay the zakah.
I think you've answered that brilliantly. And I thought maybe you're not going to be able to really come down to the question now that paying that, one of the greatest pillars, that is zakat, paying that should coincide with paying it at the opportune moment of another great pillars of Islam, that is Ramadan. That is excellent. Now coming to one of the pillars again, Salah. In this month of Ramadan, we also maximize. You've mentioned in passing that one of the pillars is Salah, and there is 5 daily prayers. in Islam. Every day we have to pray 5 times a day. But in the month of Ramadan, in the month of fasting, there is obviously an extra ibadat or extra prayers, like your Taraweeh night, and maximizing as much salahs as possible. Maybe very briefly you can talk about these extra prayers, including our Taraweeh prayers in the month of Ramadan.
Yes, Brother Yusuf, like you mentioned that the one of the pillars of Islam is Salah, and during the Salah there's 5 obligatory prayers. It's the one before sunrise, the one during midday, and the one during like late afternoon, and then the one at sunset, and then the one at the like evening. Right, so those are the 5 daily prayers. But also in the month of Ramadan we do extra prayers, what we refer to as Taraweeh, right? And these have 20 units of prayer, right? And so we perform these acts, extra acts, like we said, because we want to attain proximity towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we are doing extra prayer, and this is normally done after the time of the last prayer, which is the 5th prayer, which is like in the evening. So we do these 20 units of prayer, and normally in time it takes about an hour to hour and 10 minutes extra. So it's if we consider it, it's not really such a big sacrifice, because I mean we spend so much hours on our devices. If we have to look, we'll see we're spending 5.5 hours, 6 hours on our devices. So why not make that sacrifice of an extra hour in your day to make yourself more pleasing towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, we perform the Taraweeh because we believe that we're going to get extra reward in this month of Ramadan when we are doing these extra acts of worship. And then importantly to note is that when a person does like these extra acts of worship, it is considered, the reward of it is considered as those that are performing a compulsory act, right? So like a fard act, normally these extra acts is not considered fard outside of the month of Ramadan, but in the month of Ramadan it's rewarded as if it's a fard, and your compulsory acts is rewarded 70 times more, you see. So basically the month of Ramadan is there to encourage us to do as much good as we can.
You are tuned to Peli FM 95.0, and my name is Yusuf Mustafa from the Institute for Islamic Services and Medina Media. With me in the studio is Sheikh Imran Kubi, and by the way, Sheikh Imran Kubi will be giving a Juma talk today at Masjid Al-Haq at the entrance of Lodium, Pretoria, South Africa, and he is going to be talking more about what do we expect from the month of Ramadan, inshallah, today, that is at 12:30 at Masjid Al-Haq in Lodium. And for the benefit of our Muslim listeners out there, this program, special Ramadan broadcast on Peli FM, will be a regular feature every Friday, every Juma, inshallah, that is between 11 and 12 a.m. inshallah.